Let's go! Welcome back to Steven Retention. Yeah, that's right, we're on a bit of a roll right now. Just video after video. Yesterday I was talking about a bit of Rambo, and also I was talking about just not worrying anymore, not caring about that. We're going to kind of continue to go on to those themes of, embodying your true self and, not caring about the consequences and all that kind of stuff. So last night I go and play at a poetry night. So as a musician, I was meant to be the person that was to just ease the vibe of the night because, some people are writing these poems and they're inexperienced, they're nervous, and I'm the person to take the edge off. So I'm listening to these people, say their poems. Some of them were original poems, some were written by other people. When I heard these original poems, it made me think about, okay, maybe I should offer to play one of my own songs. Started playing a couple of my own songs when I was performing. And everyone was really appreciative of me as a musician. And I mean that in like a next level type of sense because think about it this way. Would, you know, would someone like Gordon Ramsay be worthwhile in McDonald's? Would he be worthwhile as someone who, um, could influence McDonald's in a way that they make better food? No. Could Jamie Oliver do it? No. You know? Why is that? Well, because the thing about McDonald's is that they know that the market is essentially just NPCs who want fast food. And the food just has to be fast. It doesn't have to be good. It doesn't have to be, you know, nutritious. It doesn't have to be non-toxic. It just has to be fast and somewhat affordable, even though McDonald's and a lot of fast food these days is way overpriced. But that's besides the point. The point is that people like Jamie Oliver, Gordon Ramsay, other cooks, Nigella Lawson. No, I'm joking. Those kind of people wouldn't fit into that environment, okay? So when it comes to me as a musician, my main job is to play at venues, and these are venues that serve drinks. These are venues that serve a lot of food. People there watch a bit of sport, listen to some music, have a few cigarettes, have a few drinks, talk a bit of SHIT with their mates, get up, have a bit of a dance to the music. But they want to hear the NPC soundtrack. They want to hear the greatest hits of, whatever the greatest hits are. They haven't expanded their taste. They don't want to listen to music that really makes them think. They just want to listen to music that they know. There's nothing wrong with that because I make a lot of money just playing the part, okay? And that's another thing I might make a video on another time. But the point I'm trying to make here is that that environment is unappreciative of art. It's unappreciative of, genuine emotion, deeper emotions, more significant emotions. That environment isn't going to be the type of place where you could talk about things like semen retention and people would take you seriously. Why is that? Well, because those people are already stuck in those lower dimensions of being. Those people are already, consuming the alcohol and the food and the watching the professional sports on the TV and placing money doing gambling and, all this kind of stuff. They're in a lower state. They're not going to be listening to the lyrics that I sing and think, that's a cool story. They're just like, nah, Piano Man, nah, or Wonderwall, Sweet Caroline, I know this part. Here we go. Sweet Sweet Caroline, blah, blah, blah. It's like, okay, cool. You know what, 2 words, Sweet Caroline, and you know how to go da, da, da. That's impressive. Now, for me, I actually don't mind people having fun at my gigs and acting like NPCs act. That's fine. I like seeing people get riled up and rowdy and enjoy themselves. But when I was playing this poetry night last night, I was almost shocked at the amount of attention and focus people were having directly on me and my soul and what I had to say, especially with my original music. They were very tuned in because being poets, it's all about the words, right? It's all about the crafting of the words. And so I decided to play 2 songs of my own. One of them's a new song that I haven't recorded, and another one's called Spider-Man, which is by my band Mars and Leo. Well, that's my artist name, I guess you could say. It's not really a band. So, in that song, it's got a lot of interesting, sequences of words within, and very visualize, like, it's captivating, on a visual sense. And I told him a little bit of a backstory before I performed the song, and they really appreciated that. And I think that's another thing that I'm starting to learn as well, is that people do like a little bit of a backstory before you put some sort of idea into their head. So I'm playing it, and people came up to me at the end of the night and were giving me compliments and stuff, and I appreciate that. And I'm always very thankful, and all that kind of stuff. And then one lady says, "Thank you for sharing your genius with us tonight." And I thought that was very profound. Like, that was a pretty intense compliment, but also I took it because, to be honest, like, I've been on semen retention for like 2.5 years. My longest streak was 15 months. That's close to a year and a half. And when I stopped doing all those stupid activities like, drinking, smoking, the hub, casual, intimacy, all that kind of stuff, when I stopped doing that, I started to notice that, yes, my genius was starting to come through. And I don't say that word lightly, because I've done IQ tests before. I've done things, and it's proven on paper. I got leveled up in things like mathematics and all that kind of stuff. I'm operating at a higher kind of system than a lot of people. And I'm not saying that I'm better. I'm just saying that my brain is wired at a faster kind of, or there's more mechanics in my brain that are operating than your average NPC. Let's just put it that way. And so to hear that from someone that is artistically inclined made me feel seen. Now, imagine Gordon Ramsay making a Big Mac, and he's just putting it on the lettuce, putting it on the bun, making sure it's presentable, puts it in perfectly, and he makes the Big Mac, and then someone opens the box in front of him, and it's their Big Mac. They're going to eat it, and then they're like, wow, this is the most perfect Big Mac that I've ever had. It's presented nicely, it tastes and cooks well. It's cooked well. The cheese is melted perfectly. The meat is somewhat juicy for the, disgusting meat that McDonald's make. It's good. It's a good Big Mac. I like it. Inside Gordon Ramsay, he would feel seen and validated, because he knows his destiny isn't to just be this guy sitting or standing in, the kitchen of a fast food chain. He knows he is meant to be a professional chef. He's meant to run his own restaurants. He's meant to create his own menus and dishes. And that's what he would do. Okay? Now, sometimes all it takes is just a compliment from someone who is appreciative of your art, your genius, your skills, your talents. Sometimes it's just one compliment that can help you transcend into becoming more of who you're meant to become, and to help you become that higher version of yourself and further dismantle parts of your psyche and your physical body that actually aren't you. So um, let's say you got certain haircuts because they were trendy, but that's not really you. You bought certain clothes, that's not really you. It's like all these kind of things start to dismantle over time. All because someone or something, whether it be God or an individual. I guess an individual can be the mouthpiece of God as well. That's not beside the point. But something or someone has shined a light upon your consciousness of who you actually are meant to be in this current, simulation, or this current version of the matrix, that we live in. Or in simply put, someone has shown a mirror to who you actually are. And you start to realize, wow, this feels good. It feels good to be seen for who I actually am. So, with all that kind of being said, it's made me think about semen retention and how, from this point forward, I'm not going to be giving my attention to people that are I'm not going to be trying to get the validation of fellow McDonald's employees. Okay? This is an analogy, right? I'm not going to be trying to present my genius to, the people working in McDonald's. I'm not going to be trying to present my genius to the people placing money on, horse racing whilst being absolutely drunk and stoned off their face. I'm not going to be trying to, show my genius to the modern women and men that are intoxicated by the Jezebel spirit. I'm not going to be, sharing my genius with people that do not have the intellect to decode the meanings and the stories and the ideas that I have presented through metaphors and other linguistic tools that allow me to create a moving piece of literature or songwriting or poetry or, even just a sound, right? I realize that there is more power in being 100% authentic, unwilling to compromise, saying no to 1,000 things. There's more power in that than getting some sort of half-assed, cheap, accessible, common, quote-unquote normal mean of approval from the masses. So Steve Jobs, he's your standard kind of, everyone uses some sort of Steve Jobs quote kind of dude for motivation. But I really love the idea that he put forward when he says, he said no to 1,000 things, right? Because the reason why he did that was he said no to a lot of good ideas. And he said no to a lot of great ideas. But he only said yes to an absolutely hell yeah idea. And that's the kind of energy that semen retention is going to put you on. That's the kind of energy that Like, I'm just walking out. I wake up this morning, have a shower, walk around my house, put the percolator on the stove to boil my coffee and stuff, and then I don't even have caffeine or anything in my body. In fact, I'd been fasting since about 4 p.m. the day before, probably about 3 p.m. Anyway, so I'd been fasting for a long time, and I woke up and I just started singing and marching around the house to myself because I was just energetic and in a good mood. And that's the kind of hell yeah energy that I like, you know, being in. Of course, you can't be peaking in enthusiasm and excitement all the time. But you know, it's kind of like the morning birds when they're chirping and they're making noises, or like, you know, if you live near kids, um, you'll often hear kids playing in the morning because they're up and about and they're excited because it's a new day, another day to be alive. And I think that's like that's a purity kind of concept. That's a semen retainer kind of consciousness, a state of being that we all need to be within. So you wake up in the morning and you feel good. And the reason why you feel good is because you said no to a lot of things. So the time that when you actually don't have all that energy, you can just sit on your couch that you bought, your new couch, relax, and then when it comes time to work, you work really hard at what you do because you chose that. You wanted to do that. You want to be a musician. You want to be whatever it is you want to be. And you work hard at that. You separate yourself from everyone else who is doing enough, and you do above and beyond what they expect. And in that process, you start to realize you are doing above and beyond what you expect. Because if you do enough, you meet their expectations. If you do more than enough, you go past their expectations. And when you do more than what you thought was more than enough, that's when you go beyond your own expectations. And that's how sometimes I've earned literally 1.5 grand in a day. Or what was the most amount of money I've earned in one day? Probably between 1.5 grand to 2 grand, but I haven't hit the 2 grand figure yet. But I will. I know I will. It's the trajectory for my career is just it's going insane ever since I started doing semen retention. So it's not all about money. The money is good, but it's also about understanding your true talent, your true power, your true self. How is that going to be heard? Allow yourself to be experiencing new things. Say no to enough things to allow room for new experiences to be occurred. Say no to people in your life that, maybe they're friendly, but they're not really pushing you to that next level. They're not really even a decent conversation. It's just all arbitrary nonsense. Maybe it's time to say no to them, whether it be just not answering their calls, not hanging out. Maybe you hang out like once a year or something like that, once or twice a year. Just limit your time with them. You don't need to burn bridges. You don't need to have some massive falling out. But you say no to that. Because once again, why would you need to share your energy with these people? And I'm realizing there's people that reach out to me a lot and they're like, oh, we need to catch up, blah, blah, blah. And then I go call them to try and catch up with them and then they don't answer. And then they're like, oh, sorry, I was really busy. It's like, sounds like you're breadcrumbing, bro. But anyway, besides the point. Anyway, we're about to hit 20 minutes. So I'm going to leave this video right there. Thank you so much for, tuning in to Steven Retention. If you like this video, comment, subscribe to the channel if you feel inclined. Otherwise, you guys have a great weekend, and I'll see you on the next video. Cheers, guys.